All right, so I'm getting a little bit of mic issues. My mic keeps going in and out, but welcome to the Process Show. We got Keithan Jones that's going to be on with us. He's been on with us before with Let It Out, but this is the Process Show, as you guys have known. This is third or fourth show we've done on a Saturday now. So good morning. If you're on our neck of the woods, if you're in another country, then whatever the day is. So thanks for sharing the day with us. So the process. If you haven't been on the show before, or you haven't watched it, go ahead and check us out on YouTube. We've got all kinds of content on YouTube. You can check us out on Facebook. We're now on Twitch as well. But the process is all about looking at different specific issues and concerns that could help you become a publisher, an artist, a penciler, pen, whatever, the inker. We'll have painters on here. We're going to have all kinds of different things to build your art game up. So that's what we're going to be working on. But today we're talking about building brand with Keithan Jones, his Kid Comics publishing company, the Power Knights. We're going to talk about all that. So without further ado, let's go and pull them on. We got 1 hour to run this through, and it's pretty efficient. So welcome to the show, Keithan. Thank you for being on. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. I didn't even check before the show, and I'm saying your name properly.
Keithan.
Keithan. I keep saying Keithan. I was like,
Keithan,
I know that ain't right. Keithan. Keithan. All right. So thank you for being on the show. Thanks for coming back. I'm not actually 100% certain when you did the Let It Out show, but I'm sure it was whenever you were promoting the Power Nights at some point.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for 2 years. You were just saying before the show, it's like time flies. We're getting up there along the tooth. So 2-3 years, people are like, oh my gosh, it's gonna take forever. Like we're gonna launch our stuff a year from now, and I know it's gonna go by just so fast. So we were just talking about before the show. We'll talk big time, talk about brand building with you. But you've got 4 comics right now. You're working on the 5th one, and you want to extend this out to 6 books altogether with your Power Knights. That's correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. And I'll probably compile it into a trade paperback once I get all the issues completed.
Okay. I'm gonna bring up your website, which I love. This website is super pro. Really, really good stuff. Let me see if I can make this work for me. All right. Boom. And bring that up. Boom. All right. So first off, I mean, your website is 100% pro level. I love how it's laid out. You've got everything in there. You've got down to your t-shirts, contact information. You've got your books here. I love what you've done. First off, you're the artist and writer and the publisher of your books. And your publishing tag there is clean, super clean. Artwork is great. I can bring you down here. We'll show you guys some of this. What was the one that I saw that I was just like, man, look at that. That's gorgeous. I saw that. I was like, man, that's not an easy shot.
Mind you, I only see mistakes, so I kind of still like,
yeah, every artist is like, what the heck? I could have done a little bit more, but I mean, and you've got a colorist basically that's working with you, right?
Not really. The only time I had colorists helping me was issue 3, and because I was trying to meet my deadline, and so I hired. I actually went through 2 colorists on that issue just to make up time. But for the most part, I've been learning the color process. I've been putting the onus on myself to get better at coloring, and for financial reasons, it was just more
of course
advantageous for me to go ahead and support myself.
Now, what you're doing, sorry, I'm gonna share this out while we're talking, so please ignore that. When you say cost advantageous, now one of the things that is the concern, a lot of people, what they do is they go through Kickstarter, Indiegogo. When you go through your campaigns, is this word of mouth? Are you pushing it yourself, or are you using? I mean, obviously you're going to do that at some level, but are you also using Indiegogo when you start doing these campaigns?
The only the only crowdfunding service I've used to this point is Kickstarter.
Okay.
And that was and I didn't even do that until issue 2. I was aware of Kickstarter on issue 1, but I self-funded the entire issue 1 campaign, and I made the classic mistake that everyone makes when they first start out in business: is overspend and get a little too inside myself, thinking that the world already knows who I am. So I have to.
All right.
It's a lesson I learned, like overprinting, for instance, like not really testing the market, just going all in, and not really doing any testing. And that was a mistake, because you have to constantly remind yourself that no one knows who you are. Just because you're popular among your circle of friends doesn't mean the rest of the world knows who you are. And so you have to keep reminding yourself, to keep grinding and keep and that there's millions of people out there that your first issue that you may be bored of or you've seen a million times, it's the first time someone else that you don't know has seen it. So
Right.
you want to continue to give, particularly issue 1, you want to continue to push that issue hard, and always have it available to potential fans or readers, and never get too inside your own head thinking that you're Stan Lee already.
Right. Exactly. Now, and that was 6 years ago, right? When you started with your first book.
Yeah, I think I published 2014. Between 2014 and 2015 was my first run. And if you actually had the actual original issue 1, it doesn't even have the same cover as it currently has. That's how much it's changed over time. Like the I've made edits to it, and I've changed the cover.
Mhm.
Because I just, like I said, when I first started, my influences were a little different at the time. My vibe for what I wanted to do was a little different. The bones are still there, and the overall goal is still there, and the overall story is still there, but just little aesthetic things were changed, because I was finally out in the actual market, and I saw how people responded to this or didn't respond to that. So I just did some tuning to it, and to get the site to where it is now, and the imagery to where it is now. So it's a process, It didn't
Yeah.
happen overnight.
Right, and that's that it's trial and error, building it up, and it's slow, but at this point, like I was saying before the show, I mean, you're synonymous with kid comics, for me, and I know whenever you launch, like every single thing you do on Instagram or Facebook, there's an element there that ties to your business.
Right.
And one of the things that we talked about before the show was a little bit of, and we didn't talk long, so it just kind of got us a little bit started. Um, was the element of you working outside of your business, like
Mhm.
you working with other creators. Like, how was that been going? And when did you start sort of coming outside of your own brand to assist other creators?
Well, when I originally started the Power Nights in my company, I was still working my 8-hour job I was an art director for a design company called Success Advertising here in San Diego.
Hmm.
And that was, it paid the bills, and and I enjoyed the job, but it wasn't fulfilling creatively. So I got to a point where I was ready to go completely independent. Gosh, I can't remember the exact date. I want to say 2017. I completely went independent,
Yeah.
which means that now I'm 100% responsible for earning my own income and paying my bills and whatnot. So that meant I couldn't just rely on the money I made through self-publishing. So I started taking on outside projects to shore up lost income from the day
Hmm.
job I used to have.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all taking any and everything. I still was particular about the type of projects I took on, because I still had a brand to protect.
Hmm.
So a lot of the stuff I was doing was kind of up my alley anyway. Whether it's working for a company like Thingamajig, where I do a book called Me and Mr. Jones, and my current ongoing project for a company called Vortex Media, which they're located in Canada, and I do a book called Chaos Breaker
Mm.
for them, and I've been working with them now, going over a little over 3 years, working on constantly, constant. No matter what I'm doing, I'm constant. Just know that I have them on deck as far as my workload. So it's
Yeah.
never a point where I'm not working on something. outside of the Power Nights. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me. So, but to answer your question, it's in order to, like I said, you hear about guys, you hear about a lot of indie people that are like, oh yeah, I make indie comics, but I am truly an independent comic book creator. That is all I do. I don't go to a warehouse job. I don't work at a firm. I don't have a side day job
This
at
is
all.
not a hustle. This is your business.
Yeah, it's do or
This is
die.
not a side hustle. This is you put. So
Yeah.
basically, it's kind of like one of those business. I don't know if you've ever heard any of the business motivator speakers. They're like the best way to succeed is to not have a backup plan, and not to have
Right.
something that you can fall back on. Like you have to do this.
You
And
you have to take a leap of faith, and if you're really about this life, you really, at some point, you have to make that leap, because that was part of my decision of leaving my day job. It was interfering with my aspirations to do comics, right? Because there
mhm,
was a time it was getting to a point where it's like, man, I'm either going to sleep at work or I'm going to sleep at home,
yeah,
because it's getting to a point where I gotta, chop up my time and get my rest in there. And it got to a point where I can't do both of these and put 100% into both of these. It's just not physically possible for me to continue this way.
yeah. I mean, talking about putting 100%. Like, let's talk about that heart and soul. Like, what is the brand that you're trying to protect? I think one of the things that people say is, you have to be authentic about who you are, and then that has to be a part of your brand. So, what is that? Like, what are you trying to project into the world about who Kid Comics is,
Mm.
and who you are? Because you're selling yourself as well as your comics. So, how do you maintain that element of personality that you want to project into the world, and how do you keep it authentic to who you are?
Well, that goes back to kid here. Kid stands for the kid in you never dies. And I literally had the name Kid Comics back when I originally created the Power Knights. If I were to bring up my the stuff I did when I was 11 years old, when I was still using crayons, up in the corner it said Kid, because I was trying to emulate DC and Marvel at the time, and I
Yeah,
wanted to make my homemade comics look as close as possible to the actual real comics. And so, to answer your question, I had when I got older and became an adult, I went into a bunch of different odd jobs that pertain to art, whether it's graphic design work, logo work, storyboard work for films, worked on video games for a short moment, all professional stuff while I was still learning the trade,
hmm,
getting paid to do this stuff. But it took me away from comics. So there was a big all through the '90s. I wasn't really doing a lot of comic book art. It was just whatever paid the bill. So it forced me to learn a bunch of different trades within the industry, whether it's learning pagination, meaning how to actually set your files up for print, um, doing stuff I'm like coloring, which I'm not really a colorist per se, but I was forced to learn it.
sure,
Lettering, just print advertising, just everything just jumbled up in there, right?
right, yeah,
So going back to the branding and protecting the brand, when I started the company, I was like, I figured I'm an adult now. I was like 30 years old when I started the company. And I was, you know what? I'm not going to try to guesstimate what young folks are into these days. I'm just going to rate my own childhood and figure out what
right,
was my mindset back then, what turned me on. And instead of bringing my jaded adult viewpoint of the world, I'm going to try to emulate close as possible my thought process and what I thought was cool when I was a kid. And I figured kids today are probably going to relate to it in some form or fashion that way. So instead of like wasting a lot of brain energy on creating something out of thin air, hey, I already have something I loved when I was a kid, the Power Knights. I'm just gonna dig those guys up, dust them off, and write a story around it and put it
yeah,
out there and keep the same company name, whether
yeah,
you know, no, whether as an adult I think it's kind of hokey or not. There's a spirit there that that's still there, and I want to maintain that. That's why. So I was like, you know what, kidding,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
love that because it just made me laugh because I had one when I was publishing a comic when I was like 7 or whatever it was because I was at like a summer camp and we were publishing a comic called T-Men and it was just ridiculous. So like I don't think I can bring them back, but
Did you say T-Men?
T-Men, yeah. I
T-Men?
totally ripped off X-Men. I was like, I'm just gonna call them the T-Men. Not very ambitious when I was
Yeah, but if you
creative,
like,
rather.
if it turns you on back then, it probably will. There's probably a whole audience of young folks who are going to respond to it spiritually.
Well, I would have to change some of the characters. I've got one. When I was a kid, I was a terrible speller. I was an awful
Mhm,
speller, right? So I had one character called Spike,
mhm.
but I did not spell it properly. And my stepmother was like, "You cannot call him that name, even though you're Puerto Rican. You cannot call him
Oh,
that name." And I was like, "What am I saying?"
you
He's like,
forgot what
"You're
you
not
said.
saying Spike.
Yeah,
You're saying something else."
I got
so
you.
so yeah, some name adjustments.
I'm not too far. I had the same problem. Like I'm embarrassed even looking back, and I was like, oh my god. I thought night. I spelled night, like nighttime.
As in night.
Yeah, on the cover when I
Yeah.
was a kid, and I was like,
Oh,
and I
I cheated.
remember
I couldn't spell continued, and I couldn't spell, like I couldn't say to be continued, so I put CONT dot dot dot.
yeah, right,
That's
because that's
little
what
kid
the
stuff,
pros did.
man.
Yeah.
That's the little kid stuff. I love it. I don't know what you're saying there, buddy, but I appreciate the comment. Well, this is one of our slower shows, so I'll make sure that this gets boosted later to a wider audience. Because I
That
think
was
you
in
guys do
Russian.
great stuff.
Was that all the way in Russia? Was it?
Yeah, that was yeah. We've got people from all over the world, and sometimes you're like, man, I appreciate it, but I can't. I don't speak Russian. I don't know. It might not
Yeah,
be
but you
Russian.
turn the translator thing too.
One of the things I love StreamYard, but StreamYard does not have a translator. We'd have to go on our Facebook and let's see here. Maybe I can translate it on the
It
Facebook page.
says, "You guys suck."
Yeah, suck. Turn this crap off. I'm trying to enjoy my Saturday. What are you doing? Meredith is pumping away her stuff. Do. Let me see here. Yeah, one of the things I like about this media stuff is that I get to just hang out and chat with people that are like-minded. So it's kind of a cheat code for life for me. We get to boost people and to get their names out there. Let me see here. Here we go. Here we go. See translation. Oh, thank you. That's what it says. Thank you. Oh, well, you're welcome. I don't know what you're thanking us for, but sure. Thank you. All right. So, all right. Making sure that we're getting content out there for the people to assist them. All right. So, when did you turn over? And what I mean turn over is you go from people you going, okay, I'm just going to put this medium out there. I built my company. It's a
Mhm.
LLC. It's legit. I'm going to pump it out there. And then you're like, wait a minute, nothing happened, or 10, out there. Sorry, let me mute this. And then nobody saw it, and you're like, or 8 people that are your best friends on Facebook
Mhm.
saw it. So when did you turn the page or turn that corner or whatever the saying is, and you started hitting a
Pretty much
bigger market?
right.
And what was it that you were doing to sort of get to that point?
I feel like, well, I'm still working towards that. Like I haven't gone viral, so to speak.
Hmm.
In my eyes, I haven't. But it's a combination of things. I would say I think I really hit my stride as far as being able to support myself with this stuff right before the pandemic hit. To be honest with you, like
Mm.
it's like perfect timing. Like a lot of people, were going through economic struggles and stuff, and I'm like, I pretty much coasted through COVID.
It's a tough
Not
thing to
coast
say
like
that.
it was easy
A lot of
for
people
me,
had a
but
tough time, but it's tough to say that. But us creatives, like that was like, wait, you're telling me I could stay home
right,
and I can work on the passion project I've always wanted.
right,
So it's always hard to say, oh, that was great. But a lot of people had a tough time. But go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. But see, the thing is, I had there's a couple of things that allowed me to deal with COVID fairly easily. Is that one? I already knew how to survive with very little.
Yeah.
Okay, Most artists don't make a lot of money anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you become dynamic in the way that you deal with things and support yourself. So that those tools are already there. Second,
Right.
when I started the company in 2014, so by the time COVID hit and things shut down, I had already built a clientele. I mean, I had a clientele before I even started my company. So I had already built a clientele as far as doing work for folks. So
Mm-hmm.
that was already in motion. And the comic thing, I had already done a lot of conventions. My stuff has been in and out of stores. Um, so my tentacles were already out in the ether. Like I was already, on my way up. Not someone who's already there and then they get hit and they start to fall. I'm still ascending.
Right.
So the COVID thing didn't really shake my boat because, like I said, it was already in motion, and it didn't depend on a brick and mortar. And like you said, I was already at home. That's what my studio is at home, and that's where I produce this stuff. The only thing that affected me was the Comic Cons were shut down.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the avenue of going to Comic Cons and promoting myself. And because I don't really make a lot of money at Comic Cons. I make some money, but not really.
It's enough to pay back the table and maybe
Yeah,
make some change. Yeah.
yeah, the Comic Con thing. This is something I want to say to folks too. Like when you start out, it's more important. Forget about the money. It's more important for you to have exposure.
Mm-hmm.
That should be your main focus. Don't worry about don't worry about, only a couple of people bought my book, only a few people hit the like button. That's not what you should be worried about when you start out. You need to worry about people knowing that you exist. Because all
Right.
of the money and the fans and all this, that stuff will eventually get there. But if you don't have anything out, if they can't find you, it doesn't even matter anyway. No matter how
Mm.
good or bad your stuff is, if it's not out in the world where it can be seen, you don't exist. You know. So it's okay to do. I mean, I've been to comic stores. Literally went to a comic signing appearance or set up shop where no one showed up. Not due to anything anything that I did. It says I didn't have any control over the promotion of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just told to show up at a certain time, and I agreed I'll be there for 5 hours or 6 hours. And the only thing I put on myself was, well, I'm going to stay here because
Yeah.
I said I was going to be here from 10 to 6. So whether anyone shows up or not, and I've been to a shop where I showed up on time, stayed the entire 6 hours. No one showed up. Maybe one person showed up, and it rained on me. So imagine me sitting outside in front of a comic shop with my table in a tent, raining,
Yeah.
and and no one shows up. But I'm I'm like I'm a strong believer in what I put in, I'll get out. And so you have
Mm-hmm.
to. There's going to be days like where you're like, man, what am I doing? Like I could be working at a job, and
Yeah. Job where you're just like, man, all right, I'm done.
I'm not in it. If I was just in it for the money, I would have quit a long time ago because it makes no sense to get into comics to make money.
Right.
There's very
Well,
few of
yeah.
us that make big
Make
money in this.
big money. Yeah. No, and that's
Very
true.
few.
I mean, I'm not going to get into everything else. You're sort of olive branching into my whole diatribe, and I'm not going to get on my soapbox on that. So I'll try not to pitch Comics Cast right now. But yeah, I mean, legit. One of the biggest things I'd say is, sometimes people say that, and you're like, well, okay, maybe you need to work on your writing, or maybe you need to work on your art. Your art's a little rough, but for you, your entire brand is solid and it's polished and it's clean. Um, and your distribution network on your website looks legit. Like I'm about ready to probably at least purchase the first one because I got stuff back here. I need
Yeah.
room for a poster right there. So I think I like that, you can buy a comic off your website and it comes with a poster as well. So that's going right up on the wall. I love it. And you're
Appreciate
going
it.
to be in my my comic rack right here, so
Awesome.
we'll get you up on that too. And I absolutely love the look of your books. And I keep having these interviews with people, and I'm like, how have I not like purchased your book yet? You know, and I've known about you for years. I've been following you on Instagram, on Facebook for forever. I always love it when you're doing your live drawings. Like you do content, and it's pretty regular. So, Instagram page looks great. Like there's nothing wrong with your product. So it's one of
Well,
those things, you
your
know,
point
sometimes
of
it just
view,
builds
and
up,
I
you know.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just a
obviously, I see.
process, right?
Huh?
It's like you said, it's kind of a process. You know, you keep
Oh, yeah.
building, you keep building. There's nothing wrong with the brand that would keep people from coming to you. You've
I do
always
want to.
been
I do
welcoming.
want to
So,
say, thank God shows like yours are around because I think that's if I were to get on my soapbox for a second, I do have a problem with comics media
mm,
not focusing on comics. It's like,
yeah,
okay, man, you're telling me about the news that everybody knows. Yeah, the new Batman movie. Everybody knows about that. Like,
right.
why am I, why am I tuning into this thing? Like, if you're going to talk about the obvious,
Yeah.
it's like, and it's kind of like what happens to Comic Con. It's like, bro, where are the comic book creators? You know, Brad Pitt doesn't draw comics. It's like, I mean, it's cool that he's here, and I'm just using Brad Pitt as an example, but cool that he's here, and I'm a fan of his. But at the same
Mhm.
time, he's not the person that created this stuff, and you got that person
In the
somewhere
back
off
room.
in the corner.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think in the long run, you're hurting the industry that way by not
Hmm.
nurturing, not educating new readers on who's behind this stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the manga side, it's popping over there. Like
They celebrate their creators.
yeah, my own kids have manga stuff all over the wall, and I watched that, and I'm like, that's how it used to be with the American comics when I was growing up, and now it's the American comics get praised for the film side of things, but those very same their counterparts, the books, aren't celebrated the same way. And I doubt, I doubt Americans will ever celebrate comics culture at that level, but at the same time, it could be better than it is.
Right.
I
It
mean,
could
and
be
I
better.
think, yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with what's up, Aaron? I think that has a lot to do with shows like yours, where you guys are integral to the lifeline of this industry, like
Hmm.
promoting people as such as myself, and whether I'm one of the indie guys or the mainstream guys, we're both sides are kind of suffering for lack of exposure by our own media outlets, if that makes any sense.
No, you're right. I mean, there's two things that go into that. There's click attention, you know. So you want to talk about things that get people's attention, and it works the same way with Comic Con. You know, we want to sell a lot of tickets. Um, Comic Cons are betraying their brand. It's redefining their brand, not necessarily betraying it. You could probably use that term. I wouldn't argue against it, but I wouldn't use that term. I think the biggest thing is people tend to want to use something that gets some clicks, gets some views. So controversy sells. Talking about something that is searchable. You know,
Mhm.
oh, we'll talk about. You know, it'd be really easy if I was like, hey, could you do like a kid comics version of a Ghostbusters character? And then we'd be
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, we
yeah.
drew the Ghostbusters character and we post that on YouTube and then it's searchable, right? So
Right.
one of the biggest things that Comics Cast decided on early on was that we were always going to make it. Our tenet was it's to highlight the indie creator and build indie creator IP respect
Hmm.
as well as the trust between the IP owners and ourselves. As
Hmm.
we move on to the next stage of becoming a publisher and a streaming service, we have to be able to build that trust for creators to know that we are, we are holding on to their IP for a streaming service that ends up building the community in the long run. So it's a little bit of a selfish action on our part because we're looking at the bigger picture. We're like, okay, the views may not be there. I can always boost something for $10 and still get it to 10,000 people. I don't need to lose integrity on the product to do that.
Right.
So that's how we always do
But
it. So it's
see,
always been.
but see, you'll And this goes back to branding and what you asked me about earlier, protecting the brand. Like, it's in the short run, yes, you can get hits off of or do some clickbait type of strategy. But the people who stay in the game over the long haul are the ones who have separated themselves by doing something unique that's unique to them, whether even though they may be talking about the same subject matter, the way that they've branded themselves and the things that they do individually within that scope is what's going to make you stand above the fray. Because I'll say, for instance, I have a bone to pick with some of the Black comics outlets that are doing something similar to yourself, right? And I'll go to the site and they're talking about mainstream stuff, like just to get the clicks, and I'm like, bro or woman, what? I can get this from entertainment. Like, if you're trying to promote Black creators, promote Black creators. And for the most part, most of us are still indie level, So have the nuts to actually focus on indie creators, and I think you'll see an organic audience start to develop, and you'll be able to stick around longer because you're not doing what A, B, and C are doing. You know what I mean? It's like you go to a grocery store. You want the real Lucky Charms. You don't want knockoff Lucky Charms.
It's kind of like if you want to go to a Korean store, you go to a Korean store because they legitimately have food that's Korean food, and you go to Walmart, they'll have soup that looks like you microwave it and they call it Korean. You're like, no, that's not. No, we're gonna go.
Right, and you think the audience doesn't know the difference between the two? Like, the name brand one has built they've gotten to the point where they are. It's like Disney. Disney could put a bunch of crap out, but if you throw Disney on there, all of a sudden it elevates the quality of it.
It's vertically talking about brand, kind of bringing that full circle. That's when you have such a powerful brand that you can throw anything on there. You can lose all creativity, and as long as the brand is on there, then it's fine. But the thing is, it's a house of cards. Once you've compromised your brand, it only takes so long before it all falls apart, and then the brand is ruined. And I think you've seen probably some of those memes. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you see, I don't know if you've seen these memes. They're all over the place. That's sort of like the people that are like, support Black creators. And then I want this new Black character, or I want Superman Black, or I want Batman, whatever it is. And then this, indie creator is like, well, I have 25 books of minority characters that are all original. And they're like, I don't know that guy. So whatever. And it's like, that's where those shows that you're on and you're saying, hey, why aren't they focusing on that? They got to do a better job.
That's exactly where the podcasts of the world out there can separate themselves from what's going on with mainstream podcast folks. Go after the real stuff and make a name for yourself where people know they can. I mean, I see it with I'm a hip hop person, right? I grew up in hip hop. Like, I was there at the beginning. Not the very big beginning because I wasn't even born yet, but I was there when Run DMC and LL Cool J first hit the scene, right?
Yeah.
And those guys from the 80s are now, they're a little older. They're in their 50s and 60s now, right? As far as their age. But what they've done is they've created podcasts like, I don't know if you heard of a podcast called Drink Champs.
No.
Okay, Drink Champs was funded by a rapper named Noriega, and he was doing his thing back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But he basically had his run, and he kind of disappeared as far as from mainstream media. But now he's took it upon himself, him and his partner, I forgot his partner's name, to build a platform to celebrate those artists from the 80s and 90s, because they also were you know how it is with pop culture. The mainstream will move on, even though these artists are still in circulation and they're out there doing their thing. It's whatever's hot at the time that gets all the light.
Yeah,
But
the
there's
only
still,
person that still survives is Mariah Carey, and
yeah, but those legends are still,
yeah,
those legends are still walking the earth, and they
right,
still garner interest from their original fan set.
yep,
And the people and new fans are becoming fans of those legends because of his podcast, because he's took it upon himself to sell it, to bring them on, to interview them, to find out what's going on with them. And when it first hit the scene, you're like, drink champs, because what
mm,
they're drinking alcohol and smoking weed while they're interviewing these people live,
right,
right?
of course, yeah.
But so when it originally hit the scene, you're kind of like, I don't know about this. I don't know if it's going to
You
survive.
know what? I've seen an episode of that, not the full one. Now that you're kind of describing the visual of it, I remember seeing a couple of like bits of this. Maybe it was like little snippets of it on
Uh,
YouTube or whatever came up.
You
Yeah,
probably have. You
yeah,
probably have, but it's something he's now really hitting his stride after, I'm gonna say, geez, man, maybe 5-6 years now.
yeah,
He's just now really going, like, he's really carved out a niche for himself where he's getting, I mean, he just had Kanye West on there for the first time.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
of course he's not gonna have Kanye on this very first episode. And he, like, you
Mhm.
were asking me, what do you do when you only get a couple of hits or a couple of likes? Like, they could have folded the cards a long time ago.
Right.
They kept at it, and they built a brand out of self belief and self promotion and just sticking to it. So now he's got real, he has a parent company behind him. He's getting these big important guests within his scope of what he's talking about. He's not interviewing um, politicians who are in the news at the time. He's not interviewing actors. He's interviewing the world that he comes from, which is
Yeah.
hip hop, right?
Right.
So comics has to do, well, basically what I'm saying, comics has to do the same thing. It's like, you guys have to, and this includes Marvel and DC, you guys have to show love to the people who are creating this stuff. I'm not just kind of like throw them a bone, but like really put a
Hmm.
spotlight on them, really put some money behind promoting them, whether they're current or not, and you will see an audience start to solidify around it, which
Yeah.
will propel it to the next level, and then so on and so forth, whatever else organically develops from that. But right now, everyone wants to just go right to the movies, right to the films, and talk about that ad nauseum.
Which is funny because that's a dime a dozen. Now you're just doing every single thing that everybody else is doing. I think the fear is that what people don't want to do is they're afraid of the niche audience. And here at Comics Cast, like our focus is to communicate to the audience of all the creators, unify the audience of all the individual creators, and then push beyond that to find new readers that don't even know they want to read comics. They've watched the movies
Exactly.
or
Exactly.
whatever, but we got to get it to them. We got to make it easy. We can't be like, oh, you should read comics. Okay, well, where do I go? Well, you can go to Kickstarter and search that. You can go to Indiegogo. You can find kid comics if you go to, like, we're all so separate. We got to get it, and we got to get it convenient to people, because I think there's people that are manga killing it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Comixology, millions of people. Like, there's no reason that the indie comics community needs Comixology. There's no reason that we need to be worried about which comic book company or comic book store we're going to print and sell it to. There's so many of us, but we got to get past all the drama. I think that's the biggest thing. We got to get past our drama. We
Mhm.
got to unite with each other. We got to get past our petty stuff that we're, I'm the alpha guy. No, I'm the alpha guy, and everyone's got to talk shit. Um, like, we got to get past that stuff and
Well, you got to know. You got
and
to know
expand
what
the
you,
audience.
you have to know. It's business. Like, it's still like the moment you start asking people for money,
It's
now
business.
you're now in the world of business. Okay, and there
Hmm.
are rules, whether you accept those rules or not. There are rules in business. Not only for the consumer, but for your to protect yourself as well. Like, you can't
Hmm.
be, you can't just, you got to throw that high school mentality out the window when it comes to like dealing with your fan base. Like, it, more, my book is late because there was just so much traffic to get to the printer today, or my wife and I are beefing, and I'm like, bro, I got my own problems.
Right.
Your comic, your comic is a escapism for me. Like I get to leave my problems and get into this art that you've created. But you, but instead of telling me about that, you're telling me about your problems, and I can't really. At the end of the day, I can't really do anything to help you on that end, and I feel bad for you, but I can't really do anything for you uh, on that end. But if you, I can buy your stuff if you tell me where it is and make me excited for it. I can
Right.
help you.
And well, and that's a challenge. What you're talking about is people engaging with their audience. And there's a difference between pressuring your audience, um, and giving too much information, and then like the idea is that you're not buying somebody's book, you're buying the person who's making it. And I think that's true if you're investing in it. So like if you're getting onto a Kickstarter and you're paying an absorbent amount of money for one book, then you're an investor, you're a stock owner in a lot of ways for that business. So I think there's a certain amount of, you go beyond fan to being somebody who's helping run somebody's business. So I think there is expectation as a stock owner to say, hey, this book should be done by this time, or I paid for that thing a year ago, like where is it? So you got to be careful with that.
Well, you're the one that you the artist is the one that told them you're going to have it on a certain date. It's not like
Yeah, it's
not like
business.
they created the due date. It's like you told me that the book would
Hmm.
be ready on this date, and it's not ready, which happens. Everyone, I think most people have enough leeway where they understand that something may be late. But if you don't tell them, like if you just go ghost on them
Hmm.
and don't continue to communicate to them why something is late, that's worse. That's like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't like that it's late, but at least you're giving me a legitimate reason why it's a little late, and I can I'm not going to hang myself over it. Oh my god, my life is over
Sure.
because the book is late. But
Yeah.
if you just disappear on me, that's
Hmm.
really bad business. And it's common sense too. That's a
Yeah.
lot of this common sense is like, of course they're mad at you. You don't give them any information to what happened to you. Like
Yeah. And I know we're going off on a little tangent here, but this is all about brand. Like you got to own your brand. Like if Kid Comics, everybody loved your stuff, everybody loved your stuff, you were pumping out comics, and then one minute you're like, all right, I ran a Kickstarter and my book is 4 years late, and you
Mhm.
didn't say anything to anyone, and you just moved on. People were like, well, now your brand is, tarnished.
Damaged.
Like, no, I don't want to do it
Yeah,
anymore.
you're damaged goods. I
You
mean,
know, and I, and I'll just say from my own experiences, sometimes you get on social media and you get rowdy about stuff, and you are like, you're so passionate about what you think, and you want to correct people or whatever, and that's a really quick way to tarnish your brand. So like, you always got to be careful. Like you're always communicating to the world, and you can always build your brand or break it. But there is something to be said about, you need to be authentic to yourself at all
yeah,
times. But at the same time, you don't need to
there's
be
a way.
fighting with
There's a way
somebody.
to. There's a way to also make. There's a way to do that as well. Like if you want to make a statement on whether it's politics or what's the word, social commentary,
Mhm.
just do it in a polite manner. That's all.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't understand why people can't say what they want to say in a polite manner. Like, do it in a respectable way, and most rational people can, whether they agree with you or not, they can accept it because of the way you say it.
Right.
But if you start out with, and I've said this before, if you start out telling someone, "Hey, you're stupid," and I'm going to tell you why, they
And then
already stopped listening to you.
yeah, or you use some derogatory term, and then
Yeah,
they don't,
they
it's
already
like,
stopped listening to you. So, and that
yeah.
goes to business as well. It's like you have to be respectful to your fan base when you're trying to communicate something to them, so that they can make the decision on whether they want to purchase it or not, or keep riding with you or not. It doesn't mean that your fan base has to agree with you on every single thing that comes across your mind.
Mhm.
That's not realistic thinking. That's not human.
Right.
Everyone's going through something at some point during the day. Everyone see the internet has basically put us all into each other's minds. Some guys having a great day, some guys having a horrible day. This guy's loved one died today. This person just hit a million, just won the lottery, you know, and
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
happening simultaneously. So as a business person, it would behoove you to kind of like step back a little bit and not get too close to those situations, because A, you can't really do anything about it, and B, you have to protect your brand, because the way you feel today is not the way you're going to feel tomorrow. And to a large extent, time does
Mhm.
heal all wounds at some point. Like you know, you have to move on with your life, because you're going to kill yourself on stress alone if you don't.
That's
You know
fair.
what I
That's
mean?
good points. Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, just stay focused. I try with kid. I have a vision in my mind, and I try to focus on it like a laser. I'm trying to get from here to there.
Well, let's talk
Tell
about where there is. Tell me where there is. Where are we going?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I would the closest model I can think of is Image Comics.
Mhm.
I would like to be able to at some point see a talented person, man, woman, child, whatever, and hey man, I want to get behind this person. I'm going to put money. I want to publish your indie comic or your film, and put some real money and advertising behind it, because I believe in you. I want to be that guy. Like I want to be able to like nurture new talent and put them out there in a real way, and make them successful, and share, so to speak, share the wealth, so to speak,
Mhm.
and make Kid be a platform, a focused platform, because like I'm not going to do pornographic stuff, for instance.
Oh, there's certain things you just yeah, we're not
Yeah,
gonna do that.
I might do adult content, but
Right.
there's certain, I have rules to what I will accept or not accept as well, right? Because
Right.
I still, even though it's their project, it still has to fall under my fold as far as my branding. And
Mhm.
so that's where I want to take the company. I just want to be able to um, not only fund my own projects, but fund project artists I believe in and put them on, because maybe you ever see films, or movies, for instance,
Yeah.
or a comic even, where you're like, man, if they would only have done this, it would have worked.
Right.
You know,
You're like, yeah,
so
95% there. Just a
yeah,
little bit
so
of a nudge, it would have been perfect.
if you can build a platform where you're in control of that and you can make those decisions, that's
Mhm.
where I want to go.
Awesome. That's a great destination. 100% on board. And if I can ever help you in any way, like just reach out. I'd love to help fund that. Or there was one of the things I want to do on this show, and this isn't a pitch. You don't have to say yes or no. It's just kind of something I want to throw out there. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and it just feels right with you. I've been wanting to do a series of shows where we have contestants go through and they do challenges where they do art challenges. If let's say we're trying to get an artist for a book, right? They go through like 10 episodes where they're getting challenges all the way through. They get judged by artists and they're like, okay, you start with like 10 contestants, you get down to finally one, right? And
Mhm.
then this final one is actually going to be then hired to do a book with X, Y, and Z publishing. And
Oh,
I love that. I've been
like the American, what is that? American Idol type
Yeah,
model?
like well, there's like if you look at it, it's be more akin to like a cooking show. You know those like those cooking ones where they do threat challenges and stuff.
Oh yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
been like Face Off.
Oh,
There's
okay,
been
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of different shows, but there's never been like a straight up comic book like artist show.
yeah.
You know,
That's hard to do. That's gonna be hard to pull off,
I
because art
know,
is
I know,
so
especially since we can't all be in the same area. It'd all have to be like through like a streaming element.
yeah.
And I don't have
Making
the kind of
comics
money
is
to fly
so
everybody
labor
in for
intensive.
forever.
Yeah, and it's so labor intensive to make a comic, and there's some days where nothing comes out. Uh,
No, I know, I know. I know they wouldn't draw the comic, but it would be like, you draw a character and has to, in art school, you went through an art school, so they'd be like, "Well, here's the character. I want you to draw it," and then they have to,
oh, more like artist time.
it has to keep the same look and feel. You can do a little bit of adjustment on your own, but it has to be the same IP, so it can't tweak it. So like that would be a challenge, and then
Right.
doing action pose, doing a set of expressions, turnarounds, and then maybe a page.
Oh
And then
yeah.
they would have to do all that, so
I actually,
anyway.
I think was 2017. I was tasked by the college I graduated from, Platt College in San Diego.
Hmm.
They hired me to for a semester to teach a comic creation class. Uh,
Nice. Yeah.
my I told you I did a little bit of everything. Like I
Yeah.
was a legitimate college professor for a few months there, and I
Oh.
had to come up with that whole criteria and for what was it, 6 weeks? I said, how am I going to approach this? And the one thing I made sure that I wasn't going to do was like I'm not going to because a lot of people get this confused. Like I let them know I'm not going to teach a how to draw class.
Yeah.
Comics and how to draw are two separate things, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
I wanted the class to be about sequential art. So basically, it was more of a storytelling class in the form of comics
Yeah.
because I don't care. You could draw as good, you could be like Leonardo da Vinci level skilled, right?
Hmm.
That doesn't mean you can draw comics. That
Yep.
doesn't mean you know how to tell a story in a sequential manner on a page.
Yeah. The
And so,
medium of comics, storytelling through
right,
the medium of
right,
comics.
and
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do with that class is basically my guideline was how to draw comics, the Marvel Way book,
Hmm. Yep.
and everyone in the class got a copy of that book for free, uh, not out of my pocket, but out of the program's budget.
Oh, okay, good.
Because they asked me what.
Like, how are you getting that?
Yeah. Because they gave me they allotted me a certain budget and what type of textbooks I
Hmm.
wanted, and I that immediately came to mind. So everyone, because I think that book to this day is still if
It
I
is.
read
That's
any
John
book,
Buscema, right? John
huh?
Buscema? That's
Yep,
John Buscema, right? It was
Stanley John Buscema. Yep.
yeah. I don't
Yeah,
have it anymore. I had it for the longest time. I've lost most of my books over the years. It's
yeah.
very frustrating,
That
but
book
I
to
had that
me
one
is
for a long
still
time.
excellent. It's still an excellent. I don't care whether you're drawing manga or whatever your style is. The bones of how to make comics is in that book.
Mhm.
And it's still relevant to this day, whether you're
Yeah.
traditional or digital. Like,
Yep. Yeah, and you can see the influence of, like, King Kirby on, Buscema, but, like, then he has it's like you have to almost have a certain taste to love Kirby, but everyone respects Kirby for what he did for doing what he did with the comic book industry. But Bashima is just beautiful. Like his stuff
oh
is
yeah,
gorgeous.
yeah,
So you can see that he still has the power that Kirby had, but it translates to something that everybody can use. Like it works on every page, and then you just find your style in that. So like a lot of it is,
he's
you
like
know,
if you mix Neil Adams' anatomy and just all the traditional mechanics of Neil Adams that displays, and then the power and dynamism of Jack Kirby. You get
yeah, that's the love child of those two. Yeah, I didn't even yeah, I think that's
yeah.
legit. That's true.
So yeah, he was a perfect artist to explain to visualize what Stan Lee was getting across with the wording in
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. You're making my point. I wasn't able to make my point properly, but yes, he's the right artist to visualize that element that can translate to people. All right, so we've got 4 minutes left. Can you give us your link tree, so to speak? Where are we going to find you? Like, where can creators find you? Where can buyers find you?
Well,
Where
well,
can future fans find you?
well, to buy my work, my books, my creator-owned books is at kid-comics.com. As you can see on my up here on the screen is kid-comics.com. That's my main outlet as far as where you go to pay to buy or yeah, there it is on the screen to purchase anything that I put out in the world. Um, I'm on most of the main media sites. Facebook, it's Kid Comics on Facebook / Kid Comics Online as far as the actual company page. And then my personal page is my name, Keithan Jones, under Facebook. If you want to find me, talk about any and everything, my daily life, family life, stuff like that. Um, Instagram is either KJ Kidcom or Kidcom KJ. That one of those combinations. But if you're in doubt and finding me online, when you see this logo, you know you found me.
You know you're in the right place. Let me
Right.
all right, I'm gonna share just to help you out. I'm gonna bring people into your. Instagram page. This is it. It only takes a second because I'm gonna pop a bunch of. It was on the fly here. There's your Instagram page. Yeah, and we are shutting down. It's an hour long, but feel free to rewatch the episode, make comments, and then we'll definitely go through and reply to any questions. If I can't answer them, I'll reach out and see if Keithan can answer those questions for us. But yeah, there's your Instagram account. Like I said, like it's gold. It's perfect. It's what it should be. It's clean. I'll scroll down a couple of these images here. But everything's either about you or it's about your comic, and it builds what you're doing. Comic-Con special
yeah,
edition.
and I'll be at. I know we only got a few minutes. I'll be at Comic-Con special edition next week.
Okay, great.
Saturday, I think I forgot the exact time, but it's on my Instagram. It's on that photo. I think you scroll down a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'll scroll back down.
I'll be on a
right
panel there. Yeah, there it is. And the next page, if you go to the next image on that, you hit the arrow thingy.
Let me see here. I don't usually use my. There we go.
Oh no. Go back to.
Let me see if I can make it. Oh, here we go. Inside. There we go.
Yeah. But there it is. I'll be on the panel for talking about the process of the Eisner Awards, because I was a judge earlier this year, my first experience doing that for San Diego Comic-Con, and so we're going to talk about what the process of how we came to our conclusions and the nominees and so on and so forth.
Very cool.
And Jackie Estrada, the legendary Jackie Estrada, comics historian who's been around since the very first Comic-Con, she's the moderator.
Okay. And what time is that going to be again? Let's see here. That's 10:30 to 11:30.
Is it 10:30? I can't see it from here.
Yeah, 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. judging the Eisner Awards behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, it's not 12.
It ends at 11:30. I don't think the 12 o'clock stuff is. Oh well, you got Dark Knight.
It's 12:30. It's 12:30.
Yeah, you got a Dark Knights thing down there, but that's not you.
Yeah. But that's where I'll be next Saturday.
No, that's awesome. I think I'll be doing Emerald City Comic Con, not as Joe Tolliver artist. That'll just be Comics Cast hanging out with people, just kind of walking around. That'll be in December, but that's not next weekend. But yeah, I'd give anything. I'm up in Washington, and I have been wanting so bad for the last 2 years since I've been here. When I came down, when I found out I was going to the West Coast, so I'm an East Coast guy, Maryland, Virginia. I've been doing all that. Joined the military. I've been all over the world. And finally, they were like, "Hey, we're sending you to Washington State." I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! I can go to California Comic-Con. I can see all the people in California, all that stuff that's going on." I have not been able to go. I've been so busy. I have to stay in the state.
You've never been to San Diego?
I'd be down there in a heartbeat. What's up?
You've never been to San Diego Comic-Con?
I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh wow, you got to go at least once.
Yeah, I know it, man. I know it. I'd love to be there. I'd love to go. I just can't. I might have to come back and do it after I'm going to go to Korea for a year and then come back. There's a Korean Comic-Con that I go to, Seoul Comic-Con.
Oh wow,
that's very good. It's akin to Baltimore Comic-Con to the size. It's not as big as New York or California, but it's pretty good. I've been to Baltimore a few times, but Comic-Cons are great. Like you said, that's where you build your brand. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about, just make enough to basically pay for your table, because what you're doing is you're advertising yourself. You're getting yourself out there.
Yeah, that's something if I can get a little tidbit in real quick.
Yeah, we'll end up on that one. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, if you're starting out in this as an indie creator, I would not recommend going straight to a San Diego Comic-Con.
Okay. No.
Not
Not right away, no.
Yeah, the competition. I mean, it's information overload, and most of the people there are going to gravitate to the big boys, and it's just it's no slight against what you're doing. It's just that's just the natural mindset of that con, and so it makes more sense for you to, if you're going to invest money into a table and a booth and everything else that goes with this stuff, start out with some of the smaller cons like Comic Fest. If you're in California, go to Comic Fest. That's here in San Diego as well, and I think it's going to be in March or April, one of those 2 months. And that's a throwback to what San Diego Comic-Con used to be. when it was more artist focused. It's a smaller venue, but it's well attended, and I guarantee you're going to get more eyes on your work than you would at a San Diego Comic Con. Even though percentage wise, there's more people at San Diego Comic Con, and they'll but the chances of them being able to focus on your stuff is a lot slimmer.
Right. And that's where I would just, the 2 cents is, go to San Diego Comic Con as a fan and as an artist. And basically what you're going to do is you walk around, you see Keithan and other creators that are hit their stride, they're nailing it, they're knocking out of the park, they got a great table, and you go, hey, I love your work, X, Y, and Z. Don't sell your stuff to them. Don't be like, hey, what do you think about my art? It's more like learn from them. That's a chance for you to pick brains of people that have been doing this for 10, 12, 20 years.
Right.
And they love what they're doing. They're passionate about what they're doing. And they want to talk about what they did because they're still selling themselves new fans too. There's nothing that stops you from having those conversations. That's your opportunity to have those conversations. Just be careful not to shove art in their face and be like, hey, what do you think about my art? Blah, 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 blah. Like, make those human connections first. That would be my 2 cents on that. Take those opportunities to have those conversations. They're there to be had. That being said, Keithan Jones, your work is great. I'm going to be buying at least your first issue, probably all 4, because I'll talk myself into just being like, it's just money. Who cares? I need posters. Like I said, posters need to get up there, and I'll get your comics in my rack. And hopefully we start doing some comic reviews on our website. Really want to get more reviews up there, or more content on our website itself, talking about ourselves as far as comicscast.com, which has been dormant for a year and a half. We basically
if you want to hold off on that purchase for a while, I am in the process of remastering issue 1.
Oh,
so currently the original version is currently available now if you were to order now, but I am remastering some of the coloring and some small edits here and there within the body of the book. So if you want to hold off that version, I'm really trying to get that version ready by the end of this year, early next year, and have it available on the website.
Well, I will tell you this much: if you do if you redo that version, if you remaster it, if you want to reach out to us for us to do a digital version for you, we totally will, free, 100%. You can have the digital elements. We've basically spent the last year finding just the right way to do digital comics, because that's going to be a key part of what we do. So if you ever want that to be remastered in our digital format that we do it in, then we'll give you that file after producing it for you. However you end up using your digital content. I think on your website you had a couple of hyperlinks that would go specifically like digital purchases and things like that. So
right.
If you're interested, just reach out. No sales pitch here. Just it's something that we can do for sure. No charge at all. It'd just be for indie community, respect things. So that being said, I love having you on the show. I think we went over quite a bit of topics that go along with brand building. Mainly, I think we really focused on maintaining brand and then patience about brand building. I think it was the 2 key things: patience about brand building, maintaining the brand, and being just respectful when you communicate with other people, being authentic but respectful at the end of the day.
That's all it is. That's all.
Yeah. So if you're just catching the end of it, go back and rewatch it again. I'll push this all through Facebook. Love if you guys can hang out on YouTube. That's where we're building more of an audience. Where we'll have more of our post-production shows will be on YouTube. So catch us there. But also we'll have a lot of conversations on Instagram. We're building that up. So that'll be where a lot of our snippets go, is Instagram, just to let people see what we're doing. That being said, thanks. Kid Comics was on Comics Cast, and I really appreciate that. So that being said, I will go ahead and close down the show. It was a great Saturday on the process. And if you haven't seen our show before, this is where I'm gonna remove myself, and this is where you say your name and you say you've been processed when you pointed the camera, and then we'll close it out.
Before you go, I don't think I said Happy Veterans Day to your.
Oh yeah, man. Thanks. I got 4 years left. It's all selfish. Doing all Comics Cast is selfish. So I can just ride off into the sunset and draw and do whatever the hell I want for the rest of my life.
Sounds like
I'm gonna draw until I die. It's gonna be that's my dream.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, brother. All right, I'm on.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me, Comics Cast, and You guys stay positive out in this world that feels very negative at the moment, but we need counter that with positivity and keep reading comics, keep buying comics, and supporting indie guys because art makes the world go round. Out.